86. It's probably one of the most unique stories that I've seen in quite a while. Honestly, other anime have tackled similar concepts such as this, like the Gundam series has tackled it, and also Code Geass. It's one of my favorite animes ever. It did it really well. It tackled some of the issues. Pretty fascinating. However, 86 doesn't focus on Gundams or any of that kind of gibberish. At the end of the story, it's a story about morality and ultimately trying to figure out and find out what's right in humanity. Can humanity ultimately be saved from itself? And that's the core aspect of the story that I like, while discussing class divide, racial injustice, war, poverty, and just straight up ignorance. Honestly, the story of 86 can be seen as a commentary upon our current global order with its geopolitical and socioeconomic structures, breaking it down to discuss, oh hey, this is not what we should be doing. We should be uniting together in front of a common enemy instead of bickering amongst one another or trying to be plain ignorant. And it's a really fascinating one. So now we discuss the story of 86. So 86. Before I begin the story, I do want to give some context. So I'm going to give some historical context and some parallels that I've noticed while watching the series, specifically in the first 13 episodes, 12 episodes or so, whatever comprises the first half. I noticed a lot of similarities to the First World War and the build-up to it, along with what happened in some parts of the Second World War and some parts that happened in early United States history during the 20th century. It's pretty interesting how the Republic mirrors some aspects of the European powers during the First World War and what happened in America during the early 20th century with its racial segregation and class divide. It's really, really fascinating. So, the story of 86, we start off the story in the Republic of San Magnolia, the main country we focus our attention on. The people of San Magnolia, they're comprised of the Alba and the other 85 districts. So in total, 86 districts make up the Republic. Similar to the Hunger Games, how there's one main power at top, the other districts in Hunger Games, they're lower class citizens. The 86 are the lower class citizens, while the people in the first district, known as the Alba, they look like Lena. They got white hair, silver haired, they're white skinned, white eyes. They're the very top of the class, the upper echelon, and they will not let anyone get in their way. So they're currently fighting a war with an autonomous legion known as the Legion. It's a self-aware AI unit, robotic army that was created by the former deceased Empire of Gion. Ultimately, the Empire created the Legion as a new super weapon to defeat its enemies, but ultimately, like any AI, it turned against its original creators and went against its programming. So instead of defeating its enemies, it set out to defeat every enemy that is not part of the Legion. So all of humanity was set to be an enemy of the Legion. So the Legion currently has its sights on the Republic and is ultimately trying to destroy them. They're already out the outskirts of the Republic fighting against Republic forces. However, the way that the Republic deals with this machine army is by using their own machine army to fight the machine army. However, what they're not telling the public, as they're having the public be ignorant of the current conflict that is happening, what they're telling the public is that they're using their own autonomous legion. However, that's actually not the case, because the Legion is piloted, their own Legion is being piloted by the 86 or the lower class citizens. They're people who are considered subhuman, below the Alba. And we see a lot of similarities to that with what happened during World War I and early 20th century United States. During the First World War, there was actually a Legion created by the United States Army known as the I believe it was the Harlem Fighters. They were comprised of African American men sent into France to fight against the German army, German Empire. And the French loved these guys because these guys were brutal and they knew what they were doing. even though they were considered lower class citizens, they were loved by the French. It's a pretty fascinating tale. That's just one tidbit I really did notice. So the 86 are basically like the Harlem Hellfighters in the story. However, they are heavily discriminated upon because they don't have any allies. They only look out for themselves. So all the adults in this story of the 86, they're all dead. Every adult that comprise of the 85 other districts, they are dead because they have been fighting this war against this legion for about 10 or so years, and they've been completely annihilated. So they're just sending young children, child soldiers, off to this conflict, and they know that it's only a matter of time before the Republic falls. So what do the upper tier society and the Republic do? They draft up all the 86, all the children, send them off to war. Because if you get rid of your enemies, have them fight your own war, then there's gonna be no one to overthrow you when ultimately the empire, the Republic, collapses. So the commanders in the Republic, they're often known as handlers, and handlers are in charge of taking care and providing tech support for the squadrons of 86. And in this specific story, we meet a handler one, which is Elena. Elena's a young female, a young girl, young woman who's trying to do best. She's trying to change the corrupt system, get rid of the racial inequality, because she believed her father was an advocate for rights for the 86. Her father often fought with them in battle, and she befriended one of the other characters' brother in the story, known as Shin Nozen. She looked up to her brother before her brother was killed, and following in her father's footsteps and in Shin's brother's footsteps, she's trying to change the Republic within. However, the squadrons of 86 really do not like the handlers. They often refer to them as white pigs or overlords, because while they're sitting comfortably in their little bubble providing tech support, they're actually fighting in the trenches against the machines. The handlers have no concept. They do not know what it's like to see a comrade die. And in this story we meet Shin Nozen. He's known as the Reaper, the Shinigami of death within the military, because he often puts down some of his enemies and even his own allies from being turned to the Legion, because the Legion, like I said, they're kind of like the machines from the Matrix 3, as they use humans for batteries. So he has to put down his comrades before they get turned into Legion. And he's often viewed as nihilistic person. He has no emotion. He's a very deep character. As the story progresses, we start to see his humanity and his guilt change him just a little by little. But that's not until he meets Lena. Lena and Shin have this interesting relationship. It's like yin and yang. They view themselves as compatible and not compatible. As the story progresses, we start to see the evolution of these characters. While Shin becomes more empathetic and more human-like from his nihilistic ways, we see Lena devolve into this machine-like character. She gets the term Bloody Lena, the Bloody Queen. It's really interesting how much all this overlaps, how it has so much historical context. The deeper you look into it, the more you start to see a resemblance between some of actual historical context, historical issues with the main focus in the story, and how the end of the first half of the season, or first half of the series, you see a betrayal of the 86 and Lena betraying her trust and just abandoning the Republic for their freedom. She's ultimately sad about it, but she knows it's best for them. And towards the second half of the series, we focus primarily more on the 86, more on Shin's group, what's left of it anyways after their big battle with Shin's brother, who was a member of the Autonomous Legion after he had killed them. After defeating them, we see Andrew, Kureha, Emma, all of them. We see them in a new place. We see them in the former Empire of Gilead, now called the Federal Republic of Gilead. They rose from the ashes of what happened and became a federal republic. So the president ultimately greets them with open arms. He greets Shin personally and he tells them, you are not enemies, you are welcome in this country. Be as you must. The public of this country is not ignorant compared to the Republic of San Magnolia. They're not ignorant. They know what is happening. They know how the Republic treats its 86, how it treats its citizens. The one thing that I do like about this republic compared to the other one, the Federal Republic of Gilead, is that they're pretty kind. They are actually democratic. They do have open arms, similar to how Germany is today in the 21st century, how they're pretty open, how they're pretty republic. They've turned away from their dark history, similar to how the Germans, they turned away, they put their past behind them, how the 21st century Germany is now different to what their counterparts in the 20th century look like. That's what the this republic is essentially. It's just the Germany of this era. They moved on from what happened, from their sins. And with Shin and the others, there's like an episode, a slice of life type of episode where they go on a journey of self-discovery, how they discover themselves. They find their hobbies, because the president did ask them what they want to do after the war is over, because eventually all wars do come to an end, and Shin and his group has never really thought about that. All they've known their entire lives was fighting for an endless cause, for nothing. All they knew was death was the ultimate end. So ultimately we see an alliance, or not an alliance, a coalition would be a better term for this. So we ultimately see a coalition of several nations. This is the first confirmation we've seen that other nations are alive and surviving. So we see a coalition of the Federal Republic of Gilead, we see the United Kingdom of Royal Gracia, and then we see the Alliance of Walden. We see them join up to defeat the threat that the Legion is posing, as the Legion is mounting a counteroffensive towards the east and the west, going into different country sectors, invading them, trying to eliminate them. And then we see them march towards San Magnolia. Ultimately, the coalition decides that it's better to let San Magnolia fall due to their own ignorance. They had what was coming to them. And the similarity that we see to the Second World War with the fall of Berlin, it's pretty tragic. When I first saw that scene, that's all I could think of. Yes, wow, this looks exactly like the Battle of Berlin. It made me cry, like just watching the Republic, the first setting that we watched and the first half of the season, just kind of fall apart. Everyone falling, Lena trying her hardest to defend the capital, to rally up all the soldiers. Ultimately, it was for nothing, because the capital would eventually fall, as we see towards the end of the episode, and it's pretty heartbreaking. You see the once luscious, once thriving setting turn into an apocalyptic wasteland with bodies laying everywhere, Legion carcasses just laying everywhere. It reminded me heavily of the Battle of Berlin, with the Legion and this sense being the Soviet forces, an unstoppable wave just coming at the German defenders of the city. And fun fact about the Battle of Berlin, since there wasn't enough soldiers, they would be drafting up children as young as 13 and seniors as old as 60 to defend the city. Even some women were drafted in the military as a defensive pack to defend the city, what remained of it, house to house fighting. It was such an aggressive fight. The Battle of Berlin was probably one of the most decisive battles in the Second World War, along with Stalingrad. Stalingrad was a whole different thing. You could think of the fall of the capital of San Magnolia as Stalingrad and the defense of Berlin combined into one, but more vicious, more treacherous, with modern technology, futuristic technology. It was just horrifying and fascinating to see that capital fall. So the conclusion, we see that the Republic has obviously fallen, but there are survivors, and they're pretty resentful towards the 86. Yes, the 86 saved them, and now with the coalition forces occupying the former capital, because the president of the Federal Republic of Gilead believes that even though Sad Magnolia was bad, they don't deserve death. They do deserve some sort of redemption, some sort of help. So coalition forces occupied the capital along with the country, and with the help of the 86, who are now controlling the capital, the people of the former republic, the Albo, feel resentful towards the 86, saying, why are they in charge? We should be in charge. And I'm not too familiar with the light novels, but I can see how this is going to lead to a civil war S type of revolution, where the Alba finally stand up against the 86 and take charge, and they become a powerhouse, and they become another obstacle to the coalition forces and to Shin and Lena's group, who are trying to establish peace and relations with the surviving people of the Republic. I can see a revolution, civil war thing happening, similar to what happened to Tsarist Russia towards the latter half of the First World War. I can see it breaking out into a type of revolution, but we'll just have to see if that actually happens. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with the light novel, so I don't know if it will happen. If it does happen, it's going to be pretty interesting, an interesting comparison. How they feel lower class now, the 86 feel like they're on the upper class now, upper echelon. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what actually happens. And with that being said, that's just my take on 86, how it's too similar to our own world. The struggles that Shin and his group face, how they're discriminated. They're basically the Harlem Hellfighters of this reality, while the Alba, or the high class, the white class that view themselves as superior. They're basically the Germans during the height of the Second World War. They view themselves as superior. They're basically the Aryans of this, and ultimately their own arrogance is what led to their downfall. And that's the sad reality of 86. It's all too similar to events in the 20th century. World War One, we see their rise up and how they grew so arrogant, and towards the Second World War we see them fighting fighting an enemy, but then they slowly start to lose. It's similar to the Republic, how they're pretty arrogant towards the beginning. They're all high and mighty. They're sending their lower classes to fight, and then towards the end we see them whimper, we see them cry. Even some of the officers take their own lives because they believe nothing's gonna happen. Lena can try all she wants to change the system, but ultimately it's gonna be for nothing because they will lose in the end. It's better for them to die, as her uncle believes, than to let the people they enslave start a revolution and overthrow them. It's better to die with their own dignity than to suffer humiliation and accept the fact that the 86 are actually helping them. So the fall of San Magnolia is very similar to the fall of Berlin, how the Germans wanted to fight to the bitter end, but ultimately they didn't. They surrendered and they accepted help, similar to how occupying forces of the United States, of the Alliance, were able to occupy Germany and Berlin. We see how the coalition forces of the Republic, the Alliance, and the Kingdom occupy San Magnolia, and from there on we can only speculate what actually goes on. And the reunion between Shin and Lena, when they actually do meet in the final episode, was pretty touching. It was really emotional. It probably made me cry a little less than when Shin first met Lena when he was in his cockpit of his Juggernaut. Either way, it was pretty interesting to see these characters grow from one goes a nihilistic, altruistic way to the other one from enthusiastic to more of a machine-like, hopeful type of view. I'm really curious where these characters go, and to see where season 2, if it's ever announced, how it goes. Will I read the novels? Maybe, because my curiosity is kind of getting the best of me, but I really don't want to spoil myself too much. And with that being said, that's my video, my take on the reality of 86. If you guys like it, let me know what you think. It took me a while to research this. That's why I kind of waited to do this video. I wanted to wait till the entire series concluded, and I just wanted to compare it with how it's all too similar to our own world with our own conflicts. The racial precedent with the racial disparity, classified, all that. I just really wanted to compare it. If you enjoyed the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Also, if you do want to support me, check out my clothing brand I just started with my friend, link in the bio. If you're interested in that, yeah, feel free to message me. I'll keep you guys updated, and yeah, I'll see you guys on my next video. So peace out, and let me know who's your favorite character in 86. So yeah.